4th and 5th level spells are where you're going to really start finding you have regular daily use options that just absolutely make life hell for your DM. Hello everyone, and welcome back down here to the Gamer's Den with me, your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire, here to talk about 4th and 5th level spells for the 1st edition Pathfinder Druid. And remember how I said in the last episode that 3rd level spells are when things really start to go off the rails? Well, this is where we have entirely left the tracks and are now getting into a lot of things that really allow you to affect the game overall. The 4th and 5th level spells, you're really going to start finding things that are going to be very useful for you throughout the rest of your adventuring career, more so than what you found with 2nd and 3rd level, though those spells from there you may find are just great as well, like Resist Energy with its scaling resistance bonuses. So everything just continues onwards and upwards, and you just want to apply a little bit of thought as to what it is you're using, and just bear in mind that with this guide, it's just a guide. There are certainly many more spells, each of which are, in certain situations going to be wildly much more useful than they otherwise would be, and others that, well, no matter how you slice it or when you might try to use it, just from a mechanical standpoint, they're not that effective at all. But if something fits the particular mold for the character that you're going for, if it just fits the fluff, the feel, the overall archetype that you're building into, then go with that. This is just a guide. And with all that out of the way, now we come to the regular portion where I say, if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. Or if you've already gone on ahead and listed yourself on such an incredible roster of legendary heroes, then go on down to hit the like button and share the video far and wide. But now, let's actually start talking about your 4th level spells, and to kick things off is one of those spells that is just going to be useful to you time and time again. No matter how high of a level you get to, this will be great, and that's Echolocation. You target yourself to gain blind sight out to an incredible 40 feet. Only creatures with hearing-based blind sense or sight can hear the echolocation, such as bats and dragons. Those creatures will be able to detect the sounds that you generate in order to make the echolocation effect happen, and this lasts for 10 minutes per level. Absolutely incredible. This will help you pinpoint a lot of invisible creatures. Great to have. And then we also come to Airwalk. Touch target creature to let them walk on air as if it were solid ground. Strong winds, 21 miles per hour or roughly 34 kilometers an hour, can move the creature, and if the spell ends or is otherwise dispelled, the creature moves downwards 60 feet gently. Afterwards, they start falling and taking 1d6 damage per 10 feet fallen. The spell also lasts for 10 feet per level. Now, just picture it. You transform yourself into a dire grizzly bear, begin thundering through the air. That's going to be staggeringly shocking to a lot of your opponents, but it adds a lot of tactical utility and flexibility to you and any allies that you might happen to use this on, like, say, well, your animal companion, or hell, you could even use this on a summoned creature if you wanted to. Don't know that you really necessarily need to do that, but still, if you have an animal companion that you can use this on that doesn't normally fly, this helps them get into a wide variety of different positions to aid with whatever combat you're engaging in, regardless of whether or not they normally have a fly speed. It just adds another layer of flexibility to your animal companion selection. Next is another spell that no full spellcasting class should ever be without. It's Dispel Magic. Target one spellcaster, creature, or object within 100 feet plus 10 feet per level to end an ongoing spell effect, counter a spell, or suppress a magic item's abilities. You have to make a dispel check, which is 1d20 plus your caster level, and this spell will do quite a lot for you. I mean, being able to take off whatever magical buffs or the abilities of magic items that might be brought to bear against you and your allies does just so much. And the counterspelling can be great too, although you may still find yourself just defaulting more towards stripping away buffs, and also suppressing magic items. Those are going to be the primary means by which you utilize this, though in a pinch the counterspelling effect is still great to have, especially if you recognize that decisive spell coming your way. The next option is one that I'm surprised more people don't quite rate higher. I do see it get more of a green rating, and that's freedom of movement. Touch target creature to grant the ability to move normally, even under magical effects that impede movement, such as paralysis, wall of fog, etc. Combat maneuver checks to grapple the target auto-fail, and combat maneuver checks to escape a grapple or a pin automatically pass. Also allows the target to fight normally underwater, where normally your movements would be impeded. You're able to swing that axe or mace, spear, sword, whatever, or your own swiping claw attacks while you're in your animal form. Those will glide through the water as if you were in air. Just bear in mind, this does not grant you the ability to breathe underwater. You're still going to need water breathing or some other effect or device to assist with that. Otherwise, well... So keep that in mind. Next, for 4th level spells, we have Spike Stones, and this is one of my all-time favorites. Select one 20-foot square per level within 100 feet plus 10 feet per level. Rocky ground and stone floors grow spikes that blend in the background. Any creature moving through this area takes 1d8 piercing damage per 5 feet moved through it, must make a reflex save or gain injuries that cut movement speed in half, and this lasts 1 hour per level. So this works just like spike growth from the previous level of spells, only you're doing quite a bit more damage, and honestly, I mean, just think about it. It's a 20-foot square per level, so that's a 20 by 20 square area, and you're getting several of these going. You do so much to control the flow of where your opponents are going, how much damage they're taking, their ability to move at you if they decide to move through it all. It's absolutely staggering, and just bear in mind that the removing the injuries that are slowing them does take 10 minute healing check or healing magic, so they're either having to spend spell slots removing this effect and crippling their ability to utilize magic against you and the rest of the party, or they're having to stand around for several minutes at a time trying to patch each other up and get each other through this very, very dangerous area. Absolutely great to have. I love this spell. Then we have Touch of Slime. Create a green slime on your hand and make a melee touch attack. On a failed fortitude save, the creature takes 1d3 constitution damage per round. Now, if the slime is removed by either burning, scraping, cutting, exposure to intense sunlight, things like that, the effect ends. But remember how we can summon Sturges and those can do Constitution drain, and Constitution is tied to a Fortitude save? So if you've, in theory, got a bunch of those flying around and you manage to drain a couple of points of Constitution off of somebody already, that makes them much more vulnerable to this. This will absolutely decimate so many of your targets. Just bear in mind, creatures like undead who don't really have a Constitution score won't be affected by it, and, you know, a cunning or mean, depending on how you look at it, DM might use this effect to their advantage somehow, although the slime does seem to require living tissue. So you should, in theory, be safe in that regards. I don't know, I'm just spitballing there at that point. I'm gonna move right on along before my brain wanders off any further. Then we come to Summon Nature's Ally 4. Summon one creature at a point within 25 feet plus 5 feet every 2 levels, or 1d3 creatures from Summon Nature's Ally 3, or 1d4 plus 1 creatures from Summon Nature's Ally 2. And you get a lot of options this time around. So many great options that I really couldn't go through and list a lot of their attack stats. We have griffins, giant scorpions, owl bears, grizzly bears, satyrs, tigers, medium-sized elementals, and dire apes. And just bear in mind that medium elementals or dire apes are still good choices. They just kind of pale in comparison to these previous other choices that are just incredible combat or utility options for you to have overall. I mean, the griffin brings flight and some pretty ferocious attacks. A giant scorpion has poison. All of these things are going to be very useful to you overall. So this makes Summon Nature's Ally 4 a great spell to have at hand. And the fact that you can just substitute other spell slots, other prepared spell slots with Summon Nature's Ally 4, or any of the other Summon Nature's Ally spells, just makes this really useful. That's why I list this at every single level for every druid, because every druid has the option of subbing this in and bringing this to bear in the midst of combat freely, regardless of whatever their other spell preparations are. So just keep that in mind. But from there, we move on to our 5th level spells, and we have Animal Growth. You select one animal within 100 feet plus 10 feet per level. The animal grows to twice its size and 8 times its normal weight, changing its size category to the next largest. This grants a +8 size bonus to strength and +4 size bonus to constitution, while giving a -2 size penalty to your dexterity score, well, to the animal's dexterity score. The natural armor bonus for the animal also increases by 2. Its armor class, attack rolls, and damage are also affected by the size change, with space and reach changing as appropriate. So this does a lot to make your animal companion, or if you decided to use this on a Summoned Nature's Ally creature, this really makes him much more of a combat powerhouse, although I'd say that your animal companion is a much more ideal target for this. And so they will just be absolutely dominant in a fight and really do a lot to help you out with the combat utility that you bring overall. Then we come to another great spell that I think just overall should be rated higher than what I've seen some guides put it at, and that's Stone Skin. Touch target creature to grant damage reduction 10 adamantine, bypassed only by an adamantium weapon, blocking 10 points of damage per level, max of 150 hit points blocked. This lasts 10 minutes per level or until it's discharged through the consummation of the 150 hit points of damage that it blocks. Now, this does have a 250 gold piece spell component cost attached to it that you really can't get around. And that's kind of the big reason that I've seen some guides cite this as being not that great to have, and I'm inclined to disagree, because by the time you're getting access to 5th level spells, while this may not be a go-to everyday use spell, 250 gold pieces for the occasional usage when you know combat is going to be bad, or if really bad, really awful combat gets sprung on you, this does a lot to help keep you alive and in the fight, especially since you are a spellcaster class with a D8 for hit points and you're wearing some of the lighter armors and you're restricted from any metallic armors. This does a lot to boost your combat survivability, especially since we're going with a build that is leaning more towards being in the thick of combat, using the natural spell feat to be able to still access and utilize spell casting as needed, which more often than not it is going to be needed. So you're filling in dual roles there, which is also where your animal companion gets to be much more helpful for you. Speaking of spells that are needed on the battlefield, we have Wall of Thorns. Select a point within 100 feet plus 10 feet per level to create a wall of thorny brush, up to 1 10-foot cubic area per level. Creatures moving through it take 25 damage, subtracting their armor class from that damage total. So if they have an armor class bonus armor class bonus from actual armor, they subtract 9 from that. This doesn't count any of their dexterity or anything like that. It's just the physical armor that blocks and gets in the way of that damage. Creatures forcing their way through must make a full round strength check, moving 5 feet for every 5 points their roll exceeds 20. So that means if they have a +5 bonus from their strength, say they're a strength 20 creature, pretty significant. If they're a strength 20 creature, only on a natural 20 do they make it in and actually move 5 feet into the wall. If they have a +6 strength modifier, they still only move 5 feet because it's by every 5 points. You don't round up, you round it down. So they would need to have a pretty significant strength bonus to start making it through there. And this wall has a lot of other things going for it, like stipulations on how to get through it. Like hacking through it takes about 10 minutes of work per, I believe, 5-foot section that they try to get through. So that's quite a lot. That's a lot of work, that's a lot of effort, and that's a lot of damage to be taking for every 5 feet of movement that they make it through there. It's staggeringly damaging, and there's no spell resistance, there's no there's reflex saves for it, but there's no spell resistance overall. So this is going to chew through a lot of different creatures. In fact, the best defense around this is to either try to dispel it or fly over it. But either way, you're going to be limiting and affecting a lot of different creatures. And if you use animal growth on your animal companion and you're doing other things to boost their strength and abilities, you can have them just start slamming the target into the wall and dealing damage that way as well. Or your barbarian friend, or the paladin, or whoever is able to bull rush and really begin shifting their targets, they can start backing them into this wall and really ripping them up from both sides. And it's going to be absolutely terrifyingly damaging and staggering. Worth it to have in your list. Another spell worth it to have handy is Baleful Polymorph. Target one creature within 25 feet plus 5 feet for every 2 caster levels, and on a failed fortitude save, that creature is transformed into a 1-hit dice small or smaller animal, as per the Beast Shape 3 spell. The target must make a will save or lose its extraordinary, supernatural, spell-like abilities and the ability to cast spells. It gains the alignment, intelligence, wisdom, and charisma and special abilities of the animal it turns into, and retains its class, level, and class abilities, other than the spellcasting. The target cannot use Polymorph to change back, although Shape Changers can as a standard action. The effect is otherwise permanent, so lycanthropes, don't use this on them. Enemy spellcaster, though, definitely hit them with this, because then they're going to be really screwed, especially if you're just changing them into a sheep or something like that. That hit to their spellcasting stat is going to absolutely make their spells just ineffectual, pitiful, and potentially deprive them of a lot of bonus spells that their stat might have otherwise afforded them. This spell is the bane for so many different enemy spellcasters and a lot of campaigns for DMs. So keep that in mind. But then, of course, we come down to Summon Nature's Ally 5. Summon one creature at a point within 25 feet plus 5 feet every 2 levels, or 1d3 creatures from Summon Nature's Ally 4, or 1d4 plus 1 creatures from Summon Nature's Ally 3. And your choices for this level of Summon Nature's Ally are going to be Ankylosaurus, Large Elementals, Moray Eel, Woolly Rhinoceros, and Dire Lions. These 5 are probably going to be the best bang for your buck. The Ankylosaurus is going to be great for your crowd control effects, being able to daze various targets with its stun attack. Oddly named. The Moray Eel is going to be more for your aquatic-based campaigns, or if you're near or fighting in significant bodies of water. Woolly Rhinoceros is just going to be a great trample-through kind of thing after you do its charge attack, and the Dire Lion just has a great combination of mobility and damage dealing, though not quite bringing a lot of the same sort of effects that some of the better options here have. Though again, by no means is it a bad option, especially since, again, you can summon with a great deal of positioning and getting it in place to where it's going to be able to perform well against some fairly ideal targets, or at least provide flanking bonuses and the like. So definitely think about all of that. But of course, what do you think? Go on down to the comments below and let me know your thoughts. Did you like today's video? Did you dislike it? Go on down to let me know either way. Hit those like or dislike buttons. And what spells might you recommend or have you found to be really useful? As always, leave your comments and thoughts down below and we'll try to engage in discussion. And remember that if you're new here to the channel, go on down there, hit the subscribe button, and become a regular member here at the Gamer's Den. But with all that said, I've been your host, Jordan, your Master of Lore and Storyteller Extraordinaire. Thank you all so very much for your time, and you all have yourselves a good night.